Nathan Cole
Stop
had
it!
learned to
Let him
make
go!
himself smaller
I
in
can't breathe.
civilian life.
Please, you're
Not
hurting him!
physically, he stood 6'2" with the kind of stillness that came from years of training your body to be a tool rather than a presence, but in every other way that mattered in ordinary spaces. He kept his voice low. He chose corner tables. He let things go that a younger version of himself would have met differently. He did this not because he was afraid of anything in the world but because he was acutely, precisely aware of what he was capable of, and that awareness had made him one of the most careful men in any room he entered. He did this especially now, because of Eli. Eli was 7, gap-toothed, and currently destroying a grilled cheese sandwich with the focused intensity of someone diffusing something. He had Nathan's jaw and his late mother's eyes and an opinion about everything, which Nathan encouraged even when those opinions were delivered at maximum volume in public spaces. Sarah had been gone 14 months. A car accident on a Tuesday, which was the most ordinary and unbearable kind of tragedy, the kind that happened on a regular day while Nathan was at the grocery store buying the wrong brand of pasta. He was still learning to be everything. He was doing his best, which on the good days felt like enough and on the bad days felt like a language he was still translating. It was a Saturday morning at Brood Awakenings, a small cafe 2 blocks from their apartment that had mismatched chairs and a chalkboard menu and the particular warmth of a place that had been loved by a neighborhood for a long time. Eli had asked for hot chocolate with extra marshmallows. Nathan had ordered black coffee and a muffin and was helping Eli with a word search when the door opened and a different kind of energy walked in. 3 men, mid-30s, carrying the loose and untethered confidence of people who had spent the morning somewhere that served alcohol before noon. Not falling down drunk, but loud in the specific way that meant the day was going to bend around them whether anyone wanted it or not. They took the table next to Nathan and Eli without lowering their volume by a single degree. The tallest one, broad-shouldered with a jaw that wanted to be impressive, pulled his chair out and let it scrape across the tile floor in a long, deliberate shriek that made Eli flinch and press his hands over his ears. Nathan looked up. Calmly. He reached over and gently pulled Eli's hands down and said quietly, "You okay, bud?" It was loud, Eli said. "I know. Finish your hot chocolate." The broad-shouldered man, Nathan had already catalogued him, old habit, threat assessed and filed, noticed Nathan looking and met it with the kind of grin that was really a challenge wearing a smile's clothes. He pulled his chair out again, slower this time, letting it scrape. His friends laughed. Nathan returned to the word search. This was the part where most confrontations dissolved. When the target didn't perform discomfort, when the entertainment value evaporated. Nathan knew this. He was waiting it out with the patience of a man who had waited out significantly more dangerous things in significantly darker places. But Eli had started trying to find the word elephant in the grid, and his small finger was tracking slowly across the page, and he was mouthing the letters quietly to himself, and apparently this was funny to someone, because the broad-shouldered man leaned toward his friends and said something low that made them snicker, and Nathan heard the word pathetic land in the air between the tables. Nathan said nothing. He circled the word elephant for Eli with his pen and pointed at it, and Eli lit up. Then the man's elbow shot out and knocked Nathan's coffee cup off the edge of the table. It hit the floor and shattered. The cafe went briefly quiet. Eli startled and looked up with wide eyes. "Oops," the man said, not sorry in any register. Nathan stood up slowly and began picking up the larger pieces of the broken cup. Not because he was a pushover. Because Eli was watching and there was ceramic on the floor near his son's chair and a father takes care of the immediate thing first. He had just straightened up with the broken pieces in his hand when the man stood too close now, too close, the kind of close that was a message, and said, "What? No thank you. I gave you an excuse to clean something. Dad." Eli's voice was small. "It's okay, bud," Nathan said without looking away from the man. "You gonna just stand there?" The man said. And then he did what people like him do when the person in front of them stays calm, when the performance isn't landing and the ego is cornered and alcohol has burned away the circuitry that might otherwise issue a warning. He drew his hand back and slapped Nathan across the face. Open palm. Not a punch, but not a tap either. The sound cracked through the cafe. Everyone froze. Eli made a sound that was almost a word. Nathan stood very still. His cheek was faintly red. His eyes had gone to a place that had no name in ordinary conversation, a place that people who had served in certain units recognized immediately and civilians only understood in retrospect, when they were describing it later and searching for the right word and settling on terrifying. Asterisk. He set the broken ceramic pieces carefully on the nearest table. Then he looked at the man with an expression that was not anger. Anger was too loud and too loose for what was in Nathan's face. It was something quieter and far more serious. "I'm going to ask you once to sit down," he said. His voice was the same volume it had been all morning. That was somehow the most alarming thing in the room. The man's grin flickered. Something animal in him received a signal and didn't fully understand it but felt it. The cafe owner, a broad Armenian man named George who had known Nathan for 2 years, had already appeared from behind the counter and was speaking to someone on his phone. But it was the woman at the corner table who changed everything. She was maybe 70, silver-haired, and she said in a clear voice to no one in particular, "That man served 20 years in Delta Force." "I'd sit down." She said it the way people state the weather. Factual. Unbothered. The broad-shouldered man turned to look at her. Then back at Nathan. And something happened in his face that was complicated and human and almost worth feeling sorry about. The slow collapse of a posture that had been built on the assumption that he was the most dangerous thing in the room. He sat down. Not gracefully. But he sat down. Nathan turned away from him completely, the way you close a door on something that isn't worth more of your time, and crouched down to Eli's level. "You okay?" he asked. Eli's chin was wobbling. "He hit you." "I know. Why didn't you?" Eli stopped. Nathan looked at his son steadily. "Because you were watching," he said simply. "And I wanted you to see that being strong doesn't mean hitting back. It means knowing you could and deciding what actually matters." He tapped the word search book on the table. "You still haven't found rhinoceros." Eli stared at him for a long moment with those eyes that were his mother's entirely. Then he looked down at the page and started looking for rhinoceros. Asterisk. Behind them, the 3 men left quietly, the door closing without drama behind them. George brought Nathan a fresh coffee without being asked and set it on the table and put a hand briefly on Nathan's shoulder. And walked back to the counter without a word. The cafe exhaled. The ordinary sounds returned: cups, conversation, the chalkboard menu creaking slightly in the draft from the door. Nathan sat down, wrapped both hands around the warm cup, and watched his son hunt patiently through a grid of letters for a word he was absolutely going to find. Outside, the neighborhood went on being itself in the late morning light, and inside, a father and his son had a quiet Saturday, which was everything, which was plenty, which was the whole point.